You're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, 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 other than day one.
Donald Trump has successfully moved the Overton window in a way that is as dangerous for the future of democracy in this country as anything else.
This is what Vout and Project 2025 wanted.
He's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great.
They control the Congress, they control the White House, and they control the courts. And so, of course, they're massively overreaching. And yes, they are getting away with it right now.
This is clearly a man who cannot tolerate criticism of him or what he does, which is exactly what authoritarianism is all about.
The New York Times is just as fake as CNN and MSDNC. They really are the enemy of the people.
What he is saying, rather bluntly, if you stand up to Donald Trump, he will punish you.
Protesters in Philadelphia, state capitals in California, Minnesota, Michigan, Texas, Wisconsin, Indiana, and others showed up to oppose Trump, Musk, and Project 2025.
US and President Trump has overseen America's largest military parade in decades as nationwide protests take place against his leadership.
Demonstrations are happening right across the United States today to oppose the Trump administration.
Two visions of America. On a day the country's deepening divide was there for all the world to see.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jeff Waldorf, and you're watching Logically Left right here, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and also TikTok and Instagram. But we're not live on those platforms. Okay, it turns out it actually costs money to be able to get the streaming package to stream to all those different places. So, and I ain't got no money. But anyway, so look, we've got a pretty good show. No money, but great show. Okay, so a lot of stuff that we're talking about. We've got the Epstein birthday card at the White House. Trump was saying, what? No, that doesn't exist. Fake news, fake news. Oh, would you look at that? We have it. What's their response? What's the right-wing response? What's Trump's response? I've got all that. Okay, we can talk about that. We've got Ghislaine Maxwell, one of her attorneys, admitting that, well, of course there's a secret deal between the Trump Department of Justice and Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, come on. That's what they do. They make deals. What is in the deal? Well, we'll do some speculation. Okay, a little bit of speculation. We have the recent racial profiling case that made it up to the Supreme Court. And, well, obviously, you already know what their decision is. There's a lot of dissent there, and I'm going to talk about that. And basically talk about how our Supreme Court is absolutely illegitimate. And then Americans, specifically younger Americans, Democrats, have lost faith in capitalism. And I'm going to talk about that as well. So, yeah, great show today. We're going to be dispelling some of the myths about what socialism is. And because that also didn't get high marks in the, Marx, get it? In the poll. Okay, but we're going to talk about that. We're going to dive into what socialism actually does mean versus what it doesn't mean. Okay, so we're going to get into all that stuff and explain why people like Bernie Sanders and Zohran Mamdani are gaining popularity, even though they are still technically capitalists. So, I mean, there's a lot of amazing stuff in today's show. So, with that, please like, share, stream, like, and share the work. Look, I'm I look at my numbers, obviously, because I kind of have to, and it's pretty disappointing. Actually, it's quite disappointing. I got a video yesterday, about the, threat of war on Chicago, and it has 600 views. Like, are you kidding me? Trump threatens war against an entire American city, threatened war with an entire American city, and then yells at a reporter for bringing it up, and that has 600 views. What is wrong with the algorithm? Okay, what is going on here? Why is this administration crushing free speech? Are the tech lord oligarch bros that are in control of the YouTube algorithm crushing independent media? That's a serious question. Independent progressive media is just absolutely getting hammered, destroyed, beat down, crushed, so that the message does not get out. It is not allowed to propagate on the internet. Whereas you have far right people who do nothing but complain about wokeness in video games, amassing hundreds of thousands of views, while the takeover of another American city by our, basically fascist thugs gets almost no play whatsoever in the media, trying to educate people. That is insane. What is going on here? Okay, what is the deal? I don't know. But we need to figure it out. So look, it's not an easy thing being independent progressive media right now, obviously, and there's a lot that is against us. So I just wanted to point that out. Anyway, with that said, I'm not going to sit here and complain the whole show, okay, about that. But I just wanted to bring it up. That said, let's get to the news. And here we go. The Trump White House is having a bit of a meltdown after President Donald Trump's birthday card to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday was finally revealed. The one, of course, they claimed was not real, fake news, didn't actually exist. It's real. Oh, would you look at that? Oh, there it is. There it is. Yes, this is the very strange birthday card that was sent. Okay, and it was published on Monday by the Wall Street Journal that is being sued. Okay, so they released this trench of documents to House Democrats who have argued for the release of all the Epstein material. That's right. It is the Democrats that are releasing the Epstein material, not the Republicans. Remember, this is what Donald Trump campaigned on doing. Oh, we're going to release all the Epstein stuff. Oh, turns out we didn't release all the Epstein stuff. And now it's left to the Democrats to release the Epstein stuff. Okay. And, well, that's what's happening. The House Democrats voted to release it, along with some House Republicans, to be fair. Only a handful, though. Only a few House Republicans were like, oh, yeah, no, we're going to continue to honor the promise that we made. And yes, it tried to release more of the Epstein files. It's weird. The people that campaigned on this, turns out they were lying the whole time. Of course they were. Okay, anybody shocked by that? I mean, come on. You shouldn't be. No one should be shocked Pikachu face over all of this, honestly. But all right. Anyway, you may have noticed, and let me put it back up here. That signature at the bottom, right? Which, I mean, you know what that's supposed to represent. Putting the signature right there. All right, but I'm gonna ask you not to focus on the placement right now, and tell you to focus on the signature. that signature. All right. So now I'm going to tell you that a lot of the people on the right that are disputing this are disputing the authenticity of this document based on that signature. So keep that in your mind. All right. Keep that in your mind. So look, again, you had the House Oversight Committee and the Government Reform Committee, Democrats on those committees, mainly, okay, that have called for the release of these files, okay? And so now this particular image came from lawyers for Epstein's estate, all right? And again, that signature, that signature, it matches Trump's. Let me show you. There it is. That signature matches Trump's. I mean, there it is. There it is. A bunch of different examples of his signature. And yet the response here from the White House is very, very telling. You have Carolyn Levitt, who's press secretary, claiming in a post on X that the latest piece published by the Wall Street Journal proves this entire birthday card story is false. As I have said all along, it's very clear President Trump did not draw this picture, and he did not sign it. Trump's legal team will continue to aggressively pursue litigation. Please do. Please continue the litigation. Discovery, if that ever goes to court, will be absolutely fantastic. Lovely. So now, not only that, but Vice President J.D. Vance, all the way back in July when the Wall Street Journal had first reported this, okay, just, you know, they're like, oh, we got this birthday card, okay, from, Trump to Epstein, and boy, is it damning, okay? Now, J.D. Vance had first called this complete and utter bullshit and asked, where's the letter? Where is this purported letter? Would you be shocked to learn that they never showed it to us before publishing it? Does anyone honestly believe that this sounds like Donald Trump? Yes, it does. It does sound like Trump. Obviously, J.D. Vance's comments aged like milk. All right. But there's more. There's more. Here's what J.D. Vance then posted on Tuesday. The Democrats don't care about Epstein. Oh, really? They don't even care about his victims. Really? That's what they were silent about it for years. Oh, actually, they weren't. They weren't silent about it. Now, the one thing that they didn't do is make it a central plank of their political campaign. Okay. But he added, the only thing they care about is concocting another fake scandal like Russiagate to smear President Trump with lies. So, once again, here's what J.D. Vance is doing, right? He's doing basically bringing up Russia, the Russiagate, to cause a Pavlovian reaction in Trump supporters, right? The second they hear Russiagate, all logic, all reason flies out of the rain, if it existed at all, right? And they just immediately react to it as fake news, hoax, squirrel, hoax. That's it. And that's all he has to do, okay? And it worked. But here's the thing, though. So he's saying that the Wall Street Journal, which is not a left-leaning publication, not a left-wing publication at all, is smearing Donald Trump by posting the thing that they, by the way, they're like, well, where is this purported birthday card? And they're like, well, here it is. We got it. here you go. And so they posted the thing that he drew and then lied about. Calling that a smear is, I mean, it only makes sense if you do not know what words mean. Because that's not what a smear is. Okay? It's just not. But apparently, MAGA, that's enough for MAGA influencers to move the goalposts. And move it they have. Okay? In fact, Charlie Kirk. Yes, Charles Kirkington III, Esquire. Posted this on X. Does the below from the Wall Street Journal look like this actual signature from the president? I don't think so at all. Fake. Benny Johnson, another podcaster, who, by the way, was paid by Russian media Tenet. Okay, Tenet Media. Lots and lots of money to do propaganda. Okay, that guy, he's like, is this really the best they could do? Trump has the most famous signature in the world. Time to sue them into oblivion. Deputy Chief of Staff Taylor Buttigieg also claimed vindication because he says the signature doesn't match. No, doesn't match. Oh, really? You do know that signatures can change over the years, right? I mean, I've talked about how signature verification is not entirely accurate, okay, when it comes to elections, all right? But that said, I have shown you, okay, that this signature, well, you look at that. That signature, I mean, looks pretty accurate here. Pretty close, okay? Seems like it's a real thing. I mean, when you do a comparison there, I'm just saying. Just saying. Now, but there's more reaction, by the way. Breitbart News Washington Bureau Chief Matthew Boyle have posted this on social media. Okay, now that we know that every critic of Trump over Epstein has been totally and completely full of shit for the past 3 months, are any of them going to face any consequences? Probably not. I'm just guessing that's what he sounds like. But obviously, Trump and his team have been telling the truth here throughout this all. Okay. Right. On what planet? On what planet? Because it's not where the rest of us are. It's sure, planet Trump, but nowhere else does anyone believe the kind of bullshit that you are trying to sell us right now, Matthew Boyle. You are a liar. You are a bullshitter. You are trying to gaslight us. You're all trying to gaslight us. Charlie Kirk. Okay, Benny Johnson. Gaslight. This thing, it is not what you think it is. It is something else. No, it's not. It's real. And that's why they're scared. All right. But what about Donald Trump himself? Well, early on Tuesday, he basically called this a, quote, dead issue. A dead issue, huh? And then declined to comment further. Oh. So, wait. The man who normally has a lot to say about all sorts of different things has no comment? Well, that seems really strange. That seems very strange, actually. I mean, no comment, huh? Don't want to talk about it. Dead issue. It ain't no dead issue. It is a zombie that is going to continue to follow you around for the rest of however long you stay in power. This is going to follow you around like a zombie. Because that's what it is. It will never die. It will never die. All right? Look, again, I think Trump is just so busted. All right? Completely busted. This was his letter. Now, here's the thing. The letter by itself, as I mentioned, it's weird, but it's not criminal. It doesn't have him admitting crimes, right? And so the question would be then, why deny it so forcefully? Why all the denials and the goalpost moving? I mean, that is a question I think we all need to be asking here. Why such strong denials? Now, certainly, I think most of us can figure out why. But once again, I will leave it up to all of you to come up with your own conclusions. Okay. Let's move on. Oh, we got more Epstein stuff. Don't you worry. An attorney for convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell recently made an admission that the Trump Department of Justice had made a secret deal with his client. This was during an appearance Monday on CNN Newsnight, where our attorney Arthur Adala told host Abby Phillip and her panel that it's pretty common knowledge that defendants like his client who cooperate with the government typically, do so in order to get something in return. Well, yes, this is true. Okay, but now, so before I get to that, he does not know the details because he was not in the room when they were able to negotiate her transfer to a lower security prison. This was after her meeting with Trump's Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, which Blanche also happened to be one of Donald Trump's former attorneys. Now, it is safe to say, though, that as a result of this, Maxwell told Blanche something that Blanche wanted to hear, and in return was able to get moved to a cushier prison. So first, I want to get to that video, and then we'll dive into the details.
Yeah, when anybody who's represented by a lawyer who knows what they're doing goes in and meets with the government, there's always a quid pro quo. You don't just take your client in and say, let me talk to you about something. They wanted information from, hypothetically, anytime the government wants an information from a citizen, the citizen says, well, I have a right to remain silent. If you want me to give up that right, I need something in return. Usually it's a plea bargain. Usually your charges are going to be lowered and your exposure. Why are you laughing? I've done that for 35 years.
You just admitted to a quid pro quo with the
But that's how the whole system works.
Would
The whole
this have
system
happened
works on a quid
before
pro
or
quo.
after the interview? Arthur, would this have happened before or after the interview? Would they have said to her, we're going to do this interview, and in exchange for it, you're going to go to this other prison?
The truth is, Abigail, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't have knowledge of when that decision was made. But usually for me, because I did not walk Ghislaine into that particular proceeding, but before I go in and meet a prosecutor with my client, I say, fine, she'll come in and tell you Van also was involved. But before she points the finger at Van, I want some assurance from you that she's going to get a benefit.
For the record,
there's... Now, yes, he's right. That is, of course, how the system works, right? So the question, of course, becomes, what did Ghislaine Maxwell give to Todd Blanche in order for her to get her deal? I mean, I'm sure we could all kind of work that out. I mean, look, okay, so let's start out here with the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell is not an honest person. I mean, she was, after all, convicted and sentenced to 20 years in prison for helping Jeffrey Epstein lure in, manipulate, and groom teen girls for sex. Okay, so that's what she did. So in order to do something like that, you need to be a bad person. Okay, there's no bones about it. She's a bad person. No conscience whatsoever. And in order to do so, you have to have the skills to be an incredible liar and manipulator. So we know that. And by the way, the Biden Justice Department, which prosecuted her, okay, why didn't Biden help the victims? The Biden administration literally launched a case against Ghislaine Maxwell, tried her, and found her guilty. Oops. Did you guys forget about that? You guys forget about that? But anyway, the Biden Justice Department, in their 2022 sentencing memo, had concluded that Maxwell, as a witness, was both unreliable and unremorseful, and wrote that she apparently decides when she wishes to disclose facts to the court, and those facts will shift when it serves the defendant's interest. If anything stands out from the defendant's sentencing submission, it is her complete failure to address her offense conduct and her utter lack of remorse. Now, that same sentencing memo also noted that Maxwell had participated in the sexual abuse of these minors. So she has absolutely zero credibility. She will lie to get what she wants. Ultimately, she wants her freedom, obviously. However, barring that, if she can, tell a little lie in order to get a more, more favorable, more comfortable position, well, then she's gonna do it. Those lies, by the way, may have included what she told Blanche in never having witnessed Donald Trump do anything inappropriate or in any inappropriate setting in any way. She also had denied remembering that Trump had submitted a letter for Epstein's 50th birthday book, which was just released. Now, she said she recalled seeing some portions of the book, but said that there was nothing from President Trump. Tell me, does that look like nothing? Because that looks like something. That looks like Donald Trump's signature. And before you claim, it's not Donald Trump's signature. Oops. That does look like Donald Trump's signature. But she said, nothing from Donald Trump. Nothing from Donald Trump at all. No. Look, she lied to Todd Blanche. I think she told him exactly what he wanted to hear and what Donald Trump wanted her to say, which is to say that Trump had nothing to do with Epstein's crimes. And of course, after she says that, she gets rewarded. Her new prison is a dorm-style facility which features a study, game room, as well as arts and craft classes. So what this is your basic club-fed setup. Normally, that would not be accessible to someone like Ghislaine Maxwell, who is a convicted sex offender. They do not get sent to Club Fed. But, I mean, since she talked to Blanche and told him exactly what he was looking for, what he wanted to hear, they ended up waiving existing policies enforced by the Federal Bureau of Prisons in order to get her into this very fancy, very nice, still technically a prison, but into this Club Fed. I think it's very obvious here what's going on. Okay? I think it's very, very, very obvious. Everything about this, about the Epstein stuff, stinks of a massive cover-up. And you don't cover up something like this unless there's more to it. Release the files, the unedited files. Okay. Moving on. Let's go to what the SCOTUS is doing. Oh boy. The illegitimate Trump Supreme Court just allowed ICE to racially profile American citizens. That's right. On Monday, in a 6-3 decision, the Heritage Foundation's hand-picked Supreme Court halted an injunction from a lower court, as well as an appeals court, that barred officers from targeting people based on their ethnicity, doing the racial profiling. That's right. Monday's case, Nome v. Vasquez Perdomo, revolves around the Trump administration's invasion of LA, which again was also illegal, where immigration and customs enforcement officers were directed to arrest anyone suspected of lacking legal status. Now, how did they come to their conclusions, right? Of who might be here illegally to stop? Obviously, by looking at them. That's really it. These masked thugs who refuse to identify themselves as law enforcement while carrying weapons and targeting locations where people of a certain race frequently congregate. They ended up targeting individuals who appeared to be Latino and who spoke Spanish, arresting them first and then determining their citizenship status later. Now, keep that in mind because later on, you're going to have one of these Supreme Court justices making an absurd argument that contradicts that. But during these arrests, officers would routinely use police brutality, often throwing targets against the wall, down on the ground, or against a wall for no reason. And if they're not doing that, they would hold them at gunpoint until they could produce their papers. Show me your papers. Well, let me tell you what. Does that sound like freedom and liberty? Does it? Does it? Or does it sound like something else? Look, a lot of the people who got targeted were revealed to be American citizens and ended up being released. Those of them who were not American citizens were thrown into detention camps, concentration camps, and or flown out of the United States to who knows where. Who knows where. Now, the American citizens that got targeted and detained illegally ended up suing the federal government. They won an injunction from a federal district court. They ruled that the operation at large, that's what they called the invasion of LA, egregiously violated the Constitution, specifically the Fourth Amendment, the prohibition against unreasonable search and seizure. Now, in order for law enforcement to be able to lawfully search or seize individuals, their property, there must be a reasonable suspicion that they have committed a crime. What crime did these people commit? I mean, the last I checked, being Latino is not a crime. And yet, these officers, they just would see someone who's a Latino and immediately arrest and detain them without giving them due process. Because again, due process is how you prove that you are a citizen in this case. Okay? Without that due process, without being given the chance to prove their citizenship, they have been denied their rights. Now, the Trump regime and its racist Supreme Court members, they disagree with the Fourth Amendment. They think it's totally fine that ICE will be able to seize people for simply being members of a particular ethnic group. Okay? Now, before this decision, the lower court had previously barred the government from arresting people based on 4 factors, in combination or alone: appearing Hispanic, speaking Spanish or accented English, working a particular type of job, and being present at a place where immigrants are known to congregate. Once again, the administration had sued, but an appeals court upheld this injunction and upheld the Constitution. But unfortunately, the far right has figured out how to do an end run around the lower courts by asking their hand-picked Supreme Court justices for what they call emergency relief, which they received. Now, what's the emergency here? What's the emergency? What's the reasoning behind granting this emergency relief? The constitutional impetus behind this. What is it? There was no explanation from the bench, no argument, no legal precedent. In fact, they went against legal precedent. There was nothing but blind obedience to the Mad King. That's it. Now, in a very forceful dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor warned that this decision was unconscionably irreconcilable with our nation's constitutional guarantees, opening the door to violent persecution of Latinos, including American citizens, by masked agents with guns. To which they responded with nothing, really. At least nothing to try to justify their decision. No argument, no explanation. Later on, Justice Kavanaugh does give kind of a little bit of a rebuttal, I suppose. But really, this has become a pattern. Over and over again, the conservative supermajority has frozen orders against the government without offering a single word of explanation as to why they're ignoring the Constitution that they all had sworn to uphold. Now, joining with Sotomayor, you had Justices Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson all signing on to say this. We should not have to live in a country where the government can seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, and appears to work a low-wage job. And yet, thanks to the Supreme Court, we now do. You know what that means to me? That the Supreme Court is not a legitimate court. Not anymore. This is not my opinion. This is not because I don't like their decisions. This is because these 6 justices have clearly violated their own oaths of office to uphold the Constitution. They are not doing so. They are an illegitimate body. Look, I didn't like their opinion on, for example, student loans, okay? That didn't, to me, make them an illegitimate court. That didn't make them, in my opinion, unfit to be in their positions. I didn't like their decisions. But this does. This is so blatantly unconstitutional that in 50 years, they will be teaching about this in history class, assuming, of course, the United States still exists in 50 years, as an example of blatant judicial activism and a captured court, okay? Captured under a wannabe dictator. Now, Sotomayor lays out in her dissent that the freedom from arbitrary interference by law enforcement officers is a constitutional guarantee. Yet under Trump, it may no longer exist for those who happen to look a certain way, speak a certain way, and appear to work a certain type of legitimate job that pays very little. And again, it's not immigrants. As she notes, United States citizens are also being seized, taken from their jobs, and prevented from working to support themselves and their families, simply for doing nothing more than going to work every day while being a Latino speaking Spanish. She added that this administration has all but declared that all Latinos, U.S. citizens or not, who work low-wage jobs are fair game to be seized at any time, taken away from work, and held until they provide proof of their legal status to the agent's satisfaction. Trampling the constitutional requirement the officers must have a particularized and objective basis for suspecting that a particular person stopped of criminal activity. She also points out that this violates Supreme Court precedent because the court had once ruled that Mexican ancestry alone cannot justify a law enforcement stop, even near the southern border, nor can the presence in a neighborhood known for illicit drugs. So, I mean, again, they are clearly, this administration, this regime, and their enforcement, immigration, are violating the Constitution on a daily basis with their roving patrols. That's what they're doing, okay? And it is very, very clear. Now, in response, of course, Justice Brett Kavanaugh downplayed what's going on. Because, of course, right? He claimed that ICE agents are just merely conducting brief investigative stops just to check the immigration status of those people whose occupations are attractive to illegal immigrants. If the officers learn that the individual they stopped is a U.S. citizen or otherwise lawfully in the United States, they promptly let that individual go. No, they don't. No, they don't. And again, people have been arrested and have been detained for periods of time, varying periods of time, until they were able to, yes, prove their citizenship status. But that's wrongful arrest. That's kidnapping. That's what that is. Kidnapping. People are being kidnapped by masked ICE agents. And this asshole downplays it. This drunk, okay? I like beer. Well, so do I. So do I. This alleged rapist, okay, on the Supreme Court. Remember that? This guy downplays the violence being perpetrated against a particular group of people. This man, no business being on the court. Any of these people, no business being on the court. These Heritage Foundation, sellouts, okay? Sold their soul. Whatever soul they actually had to Donald Trump, the far right. Because that was what they were created for, okay? That's what they were groomed to do by the Heritage Foundation. To be a rubber stamp for a fascist. Now, he added that under the Constitution, ethnicity may be a relevant factor in determining who is unlawfully present in the United States. Sotomayor responded by writing that no matter what the justice would like to believe, the truth is that ICE is not conducting brief stops for questioning. Its agents are seizing people using firearms, physical violence, and warehouse detentions. She also pointed out, very, very importantly, that Kavanaugh's position is creating a second-class citizenship status for anyone who is Latino, but I would also expand it to not white, forcing them to carry around citizenship papers with them if they want to just be able to walk around the city freely or risk being thrown into indefinite detention. This is the reality now. And Kavanaugh is not he's not in the real world. He is in Trump world. And you know what's sad, though? The worst part about this is that this is what a lot of people voted for. It is. Even now, polling finds that 49% of Americans had approved of Donald Trump's approach to immigration, while only 45% disapprove. Okay? And there was Gallup polling in July that showed that only 38% of Americans approved of the mass deportations. So, still, those two polls show that you still have at least a third of all Americans, sizable amount, saying that, yes, this is exactly what we wanted. This is exactly what we voted for. This is what we voted for. And they want to argue that the United States is not a racist country. Kind of seems like we are. Kind of seems like we are. I mean, the country, the government, is allowing masked thugs to kidnap members of a certain racial group off the streets. Seems kind of racist to me. And again, this is not about enforcing immigration law. You know what this is about? It's enforcing white supremacy. Okay. Let's hope I'm clear. All right, let's talk about socialism, capitalism. It appears that Americans are losing their faith in capitalism and big business. Now, this is according to a recent Gallup poll, which found that only 54% of Americans view the economic system of capitalism favorably. That's actually down from 60% in 2021, and is actually at the lowest point that it's been since Gallup began collecting this data back in 2010. So let's kind of break this down. All right. By party, less than half of all Democrats, 42%, have a favorable view of capitalism. Just over half of all independents feel the same. Now you compare that to Republicans. 3/4 of Republicans are like, oh, no, yeah, capitalism is great. Oh, okay. Gee, I wonder why. Could it be all the propaganda? Perhaps. And propaganda, it ties into my next point. See, the poll also asked about other alternatives, right? Only 39% of respondents currently hold a positive view of socialism. That has not changed since 2010. And again, that is a result of propaganda. No one really knows in mainstream media what socialism is. You want to know what socialism is? It's the democratization of the workplace. That's really it. Worker owners, okay? Worker owners. So if you're working somewhere and also own part of the business, that's socialism. That's really it. Workers owning means of production, okay? And when you think about it, there's a lot of people who are independent contractors, okay? That could be an example of socialism, not in every case, obviously, but the way that you see it is, well, if you're an independent contractor, odds are that you are both owning and working at the business. I mean, yes, that's also could be sole proprietorship, and the definitions get a little murky, right? But here's a better one. If you are an independent contractor and you own your business, but also work there, right? And then you hire people, but give them equal ownership and responsibility in the company. That would be an example of socialism, would it not? I mean, I think it would be. Again, this is just the workers owning the business. That there would be no single CEO. Everyone would be a CEO. Okay? The boardroom would be made up of both, again, the members of the board who would also be workers. They would be, that would be the labor. And so that's what socialism is. Socialism is not the government owning business. Socialism is not welfare. Socialism is not giving money to people who are lazy and do not wish to work. What you're thinking of is capitalism, where you have, for example, stock traders, these high-profile traders, right, that sit there and get these computer programs to automate the trades of shares while sipping mimosas at the beach. All right, that's it. That's in capitalism. Okay, in a socialist workplace, your boss would be working right alongside of you, and you would also be a boss. Okay, so all the workers would be the bosses, and you would have to collaborate in order to get things done. I know that such a concept is alien to all of us. Okay, and that is a result of propaganda. Propaganda, of course, spread by, well, none other than the capitalists, okay, who own the media. So all I can tell you is that people who have been propagandized by our current system, they don't know why, but they do know that our current system is not working for them. And earlier this month, the Wall Street Journal had conducted a survey, finding that almost 70% of U.S. citizens believe the American dream of working hard to get ahead, the thing that we were sold, okay, oh, just work hard, follow the rules, get an education, things like that. You'll get the American dream. They have found that it either no longer holds true or it never was true. Now, here's the thing. The American dream, yes, it held true for some people, but it never held true for everyone. And that's a result of the capitalist system. Okay? Look, the reality here is that the hardest working people among us, the ones who work the hardest, get paid the least. I mean, think about the people who are in, for example, home healthcare workers, okay? Or people who work in adult foster care homes. They work very, very hard, long hours, bad conditions for very, very little pay. Okay? Or think about the people that are working in fast food, that are working in hospitality. They're all working very difficult jobs, very physically demanding jobs, or mentally demanding jobs. They work their asses off. They play by the rules, but still can't get ahead. And that's not to say anything about those who have been working in our fields, the ones who are in large part undocumented labor. They get paid very, very little to supply our grocery stores with food. And how do they get rewarded? Exploitation and deportation. That's how they're getting rewarded. And that right there is capitalism. Younger people, mainly Democrats, they're starting to understand that. In fact, while around only 50% of Democrats had a positive view of socialism back in 2010, nearly 2/3 do today. In fact, they're the only partisan group who now views socialism more positively than capitalism at 66 to 44%. I think it's very clear to those who have been paying attention that our system is absolutely broken. Cost of buying a house skyrocketed. Wages haven't kept up. Rents since 2001 have risen 10 times faster than income. I mean, the disparity between the rich and everyone else, the haves and the have-nots, is massive and continues to get bigger. We're about to have in Elon Musk our first trillionaire while people are going hungry. Okay? And you know what? That is because of capitalists. I mean, for housing, for example, investors, capitalist investors, buy up single-family homes, lowering the supply of homes, okay? And then rent those homes out, driving up the price. So they have created in housing a fake scarcity crisis. There are enough homes. There are certainly enough empty homes for everyone to have a place to live. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to allow people to live there. Certainly not for free, okay? Or lower the prices of homes, because then they wouldn't make enough profit. Okay? Look, under capitalism, our capitalist system, corporations need to have scarcity, because scarcity lowers supply and drives up prices. That's why, for example, food that does not sell at the grocery store is thrown out instead of donated to food banks. Why don't they just donate the food to the food banks, you ask? Because capitalism, you must have, for this system to function, fake scarcity to drive up prices. This is why, despite the fact that there is enough housing for everyone, we have homeless people. That's it. This is nothing more than fake scarcity to drive up prices. We have, in this country, in our society, all of the technology, all of the know-how to feed and house everyone, to guarantee them health care, medical care. But we don't. Why? Because of capitalism and fake scarcity. You got to have it in order to maximize profit. And so because the focus is on maximizing profit for a very, very few, people will never get the things that they need. Is it any wonder why you have, for example, democratic socialists like Bernie Sanders and Zohran Mamdani becoming very popular recently? While the Democratic establishment is like, no, we can't have that. Here's the thing, at the end of the day, those people are still capitalists. There are no socialists in the Democratic Party or in our politics whatsoever. They're still capitalists, but they acknowledge that the current system is not working because the cost of living is so unacceptable now that they're forced to do something about it. They're still operating within a capitalist structure. But still, there are ways that they see within that structure to be able to minimize the amount of suffering that capitalism is creating. And so that's the reality here. And so, yes, it is not a surprise to anyone why people are so mad at our current system and are looking for change. When people have nothing to lose, that's when we're at our most dangerous. Okay. So, a lot of great comments here. A lot of great comments. Thank you for weighing in on that. I always love to read them. That said, I'm going to be signing off for the day. Tomorrow, make sure to catch me on This Space. I'll be doing the live show over on the This Space YouTube channel. So if you haven't already, check that out. Very important that you do so. There are a lot of great people over there. All right. So with that said, please like and share the stream if you enjoy what I'm talking about here and want to hear more. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the join button below if you want to support the channel, or at the very least, hit the bell icon. Very important, again, that you do that in order to get the newest videos delivered. So anyway, with that said, thank you all. Appreciate you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody. And by the way, I will have an interview with Boston Brian. So that'll be tomorrow. And it will probably end up being replayed on this space. But I'm very excited about having a discussion on that show with Brian. Thoughts on Trump bringing the military back to Puerto Rico? I think it's a ridiculous idea. I think it's a bad idea. The same with sending the military to LA or Chicago. It does not need to be there. The military is not a police force, and it should never be used as a police force. So hopefully that's very clear there. Thank you, VMan29397, for the very kind super chat and the question. All right. With that said, I'm out of here. See you guys tomorrow. This space. Hope to see you there.